Let's check out today's conversation. Mike sits down with Supervising Agent Danielle Alexander. Danielle walks us through the development of her mental toughness and Olympic career, starting with humble beginnings in Taekwondo.
My brother started Taekwondo. I would go and watch, and I liked it. I could see myself doing this.
To dealing with rejection on her first Olympic attempt.
In anything, when you come up short, what do I need to change? What needs to change?
To cultivating mental toughness beyond the Olympic podium.
I'm never complacent, and I get bored with just repetitive things. I'm always trying to push the limit.
All of this coming up next on the Level Up Lifestyle.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sheets, and we are coming to you live from Globe Life Studios in McKinney, Texas. And with me today, we have a special guest. We have a supervising agent from the Kevin Petersen agency, Danielle Alexander. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
On top of the success that you've had at Liberty, you are also a bronze medalist in the Olympics. Is that right?
Yes, I'm in 92.
Okay.
So bronze medalist in Taekwondo. So kind of helped pave the way for that sport. It was a demonstration sport that year and in 88 prior. So it's I've been looking back on it, and it's kind of one of those pioneer type moments.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So we first met because you're fairly new to the company.
Yeah.
How long have you been with Globe Life now?
I started December 1st. I got my license in November, and been off and running. So.
Yeah. Well, we first met at the kind of kickoff meeting in Dallas for your agency, right?
Yes.
And heard the story about how you were in the Olympics, not only qualifying for the Olympics, but medaling for Team USA, which is in Barcelona, right? Which is really exciting. And, there's just so much in that type of a story that people can pull from and, get inspiration from your journey and what you did to get there. So we thought, hey, we got the Olympic Games coming up here in the summer. And in fact, I think right now, as this is airing, we're kind of right in the mix of the Olympics in Paris. So we thought, man, this is a great time to let you share your Olympic story and journey. And then on top of that, how Liberty National has kind of helped you connect into where you're going in your life. So excited to have you here. You ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's jump in. Yeah. So tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Growing up, all that.
So I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
And raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So my family relocated to Tulsa when I was 3.
Okay.
My dad was in the military, Army.
Gotcha.
He was a captain in the military, Vietnam era, and had an incident with Bell's palsy. And so, so he had to make a transition out of the military. And he got into insurance.
Was that military related, service related, or just kind of
No, he just had a bout with it, and my mom came home, or he came home one day, and my mom was like, "What happened?" Like he visually, and he still has, he still has effects of it today.
Sure.
I don't think they had the treatment for it like they do now.
Gotcha.
So he came home one day, and so he had to make a transition. Out of the military and into he went into farmers insurance at the time.
Oh, really?
And that's what took him to.
That's what led you to want to be an insurance agent at some point, right?
No. I think my thought was, I don't want to do anything that, my dad probably did. I don't know. We all have a tendency to want to run from it.
Sure.
So it's not something we seek out.
That's
hey,
when
I want to do insurance.
You blocked it out at that point, right? No insurance.
It was like a showstopper.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so he did farmers, and what did your mom do?
So my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So
okay.
I have an older brother who's 3 years older than me, and so I think my dad's thought at the time was, he wanted my mom to stay at home. I think him looking back now, she's one of those ladies that would prefer to work. That was in her mind, she wanted to be a career mom. So I think she gave up all of that, to stay home and take care of us. So that presented some challenges.
But still a noble thing to be able to raise
100%.
a family, be there for you and your brother and all that. I mean, that's, everyone says that's the most underappreciated job on the planet, but one of the best.
Yeah,
and
I would
most
agree.
Rewarding. Yeah.
She sacrificed a lot.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Sure. So tell me then, as a child growing up in Tulsa, were sports a part of your life, or how does this Olympic path start to take shape?
Yeah, sports were definitely. My brother and I were involved in soccer at an early age.
Okay.
So we both played soccer, and then. Yeah, so we were both doing soccer at the time.
Kind of like on competitive travel teams, or just rec league type stuff? Or?
Rec league.
Okay.
Yeah, more like the rec league. So, I mean, we had to pay. We did some traveling, but not a ton. And then I would always, every time the Olympics came around, I would always be like glued to the TV. Like, I always liked to watch the Olympics. And
what was it
just drawn to it?
What drew you to them?
Just sitting down and hearing people's stories, much like this, and how you get, how people start out and how they get to where they want to go in life, and then what it takes to get there.
Right.
It's always been something that's just drawn me in. It's really hard to explain, but I just think I knew at an early age. Well, I did. I told my parents that, but I just wanted, I think that seed was planted in my heart early that this is something I want to do, not having a sport or a clue of how I was going to do it.
So you want to be in the Olympics as a rec league soccer player, but like, I want to get into the Olympics. And you told your parents at what age?
I want to say it was probably 9. And the way my mom explains it is, I just kind of walked into the room and said, "Hey, Mom, like, guess what?" And she's like, "What, Danielle? Like, what's this kid going to tell me?"
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm going to go to the Olympics." And I think she probably thought I was out of my head.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, as a parent, your kids always say interesting things to you. So I can say, "Oh, that's nice," right? And in what? So even you're at 9, so you're not into Taekwondo at this point. You're playing soccer. So you have this vision. How do we start working our way to that?
Soccer was going well, but I liked to play forward halfback positions. And my coach at the time put me in goalie. Looking back on it, it was a smart move because I'm about 6 feet tall. So goalkeeper makes sense. Yeah. But when you're 9, it doesn't make sense.
Right. So you were probably the tallest growing up. And yeah.
And so I got put in goalkeeper without the explanation. And I think during that I had a really bad first outing in goalkeeper. And I was like,
a ton of pressure.
I got like 4 goals scored on me in a matter of minutes, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
So
and then you're 9, and your teammates maybe are like, it's just it's hard. I coached both my younger daughters' soccer teams, and so I know exactly what that moment's like. No, but you're good at goalie, and now I don't want anything to do with it. So it's challenging.
That day was it for me.
That's when it ended. Okay, so you went home and you said, "Hey, I don't want to play soccer anymore." And
I said it on the field, but I was like, "Yeah, I'm done." I don't think we made it to the end of the game, and I was out.
Okay, so then what?
My brother started Taekwondo on like a summer program.
Okay,
so he started doing that, and of course, younger sister, I'm the tag along.
Yeah,
and so I would go and watch and. I liked it. I was like, this is cool. I can do this. I could do this. I could see myself doing this. And I just kept going up there. And then I started bugging my mom and dad. And I said, "Hey, I want to do this." And they're like, "No, it's a boy sport. It's not a girl sport," that kind of thing. So we had, at that time, I don't think a lot of girls did like Taekwondo. So it's really something that's kind of evolved over the years. And so, but with any kid, you just stay at it long enough, and sometimes you can wear your parents down.
Right.
So where they say yes.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And you wanted it, and that was it. So, and it started out just kind of as almost like soccer, like a recreational type, parents putting their kids in some sports and activities just to keep them busy and, kind of stimulate their mind outside. So eventually they submit, they put you in Taekwondo. And so how old are you when you started?
I started when I was 11.
Okay.
Which
is pretty remarkable when you think about an Olympic journey. Most of the people in the Olympics, they're starting at whatever their thing is, like 4, 5, maybe 6. And you're 11.
Yep.
Just jumping in. What'd you think? Was it everything that you wanted once you finally started doing it?
It was. I was really drawn to the whole aspect of it, the mental part of it, as well as the physical part of it. And then I think I learned early on, just because of my height, I definitely had like a reach advantage, super flexible, which all those things come into play. And just, pretty smart to go with it. I really view Taekwondo as really a faster paced chess match because you're trying to figure out what your opponent's going to do before it happens. So you can react quickly and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of strategy. And so I liked the mental and the physical aspect. And so those things are things that just really clicked for me.
So what are the aspects of Taekwondo? If when you go in as an 11-year-old, what are you learning? What are you perfecting? How do you move up in the belts? What's that process like? For someone who's never done it before.
So you start with like basic, kicks and punches, and you learn like a little bit at a time. So they really start you out really basic forms, like how to do a front stance and, how to block, how to punch, those kind of really basic. And then it progressively, you're going to get more complex techniques as you go up. The patterns or forms that you learn get more complex.
So like a pattern is like a kick, punch, block combination type stuff?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, with stances. So you're really just kind of moving through a pattern, basically.
Okay.
And so you're learning those types of things. And like I said, they get progressively more complex as you go, and then you start to break boards, which comes into it, and then you're sparring, and so things get stacked on. You learn terminology. So everything, it's very balanced between learning mental aspects and then the physical to go along with it.
And there's almost like I don't think cultural is the right word, but kind of, right? Because you're learning values and things like that. And then you said, terminology that you so that's influencing. And then, so at what point does it go from, okay, I'm kind of learning these basics to you start to break a board? And I mean, do you remember that first time you did it? Because to me, that just seems so crazy to be able to do it. I mean, what was that experience like?
It's pretty cool. I think you get a little bit of an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's this barrier, and you liken it to like it's a barrier you're trying to break through. And really, that's an example. I think in life, we have barriers that maybe we put up for ourselves, and sometimes you just have to break through them. So to me, it's kind of an analogy of that. And so, and we can accomplish, much more than we think we can.
Sure.
So it's really just testing the boundaries of that and just pushing through that barrier. So.
And a lot of that has to do with the form that you use, right? And just
the form, the techniques, the speed, those type things.
And if you apply yourself in those areas, then you are capable of doing more. I think it's a great analogy of barriers in life, because to a lot of people it seems so crazy that you could do that as a child or as an adult, but you focus on it, you can.
And the big thing is the follow through. Like a lot of times people strike a board and you'll see them stop. Well, that's life. You come up against, something and it pushes back. Well, are you going to let that defeat you and keep you back, or are you going to push through? So, it's one of those things. Then you break through and you're like, oh, I can do this. And then it progressively gets more. Can you do 2 boards? Can you do 3? Those walls or barriers get a little thicker.
Do you think breaking those barriers is empowering and you start to feel stronger in your self-confidence and your abilities moving forward?
100%. Because you look at them, and at some point you might look at them and say, hey, I have a doubt of, can I do this or can't I?
Right.
So I think it helps you push the limits of really kind of what's possible. And then same thing with really the sparring aspect.
Yeah. So what's the sparring like? So that's you going head to head against somebody else, basically, and how is it judged? How is it measured? How do you know success or failure when you're doing something like that?
So at the time when I was qualifying, it was set up 3 minutes, 3 rounds. So much like amateur boxing with the format. And then much like boxing, you would have judges. You had a referee and a judge, or judges. And they would judge it based on trembling shock. So they were looking to see, like, if I kicked you, did I displace your body? Okay.
We're not going to demonstrate that here live on YouTube. We'll stay away from that. I know you could take me. Right? I'm not a black belt.
So they're looking to see if that body will displace, or, obviously it's full contact, so you can also kick the face.
Wow.
And that kind of stuff too.
Okay. So it's an intense thing. Yeah.
Legit.
Yeah, it is. It is. So when you first start, you start as a white belt, right? Mm-hmm. And then how many colors are there until you get to black?
For us, so it kind of varies on school, but white, yellow, green, blue, red, black.
Okay.
And then you have some stripes in between.
Okay.
So
to get from white to black, typically how long does that take?
Depending on where, usually like 3 years, 3.5.
If you're going every week and committed and studying and practicing. Mm-hmm. And then what was it? Was it about the same time frame for you, or did you do it faster?
I did it in 2 years.
Okay.
But I also spent a lot of time doing it. So.
Yeah, because you loved it and you were head first into it. I
was good at it. Yeah.
So, and is your brother still doing it, or is?
Yeah, he's doing it too.
Okay.
So he competed at a high level as well. He was ranked nationally.
Wow.
So we were both kind of doing it at the same time, each, having our different path and probably our own mental battles. But yeah, we were both doing it at the same time.
Your brother's a black belt. Mm-hmm. You're a black belt. I have 3 kids. I have 1 in college and 2 at home. I can't imagine. My kids will fight, and argue, and, maybe there's a push every now and then, or like, keep your hands to yourself. I can't imagine if both of my children were black belts. So there's some. Do you think some of that skill you developed is with your older brother, and did you guys spar against each other? Or?
Yeah, I would say he probably tested the limits of maybe I need to learn some more self-defense.
Yeah,
we had some pretty good ones. My parents ended up giving up on spanking us.
Let you 2 handle it.
Well, yeah. No, but if we would get in a fight, they just changed it, because in martial arts, they'll usually, like, if you get in trouble in class, they'll give you push-ups. And so they started changing the punishment for stuff because obviously spanking us wasn't working. So, they went to push-ups at some point.
Making my kids do push-ups when they...
There you go.
That'd be good.
It helps them with a lot of things.
Yeah,
your core, your strength.
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the tip.
You're welcome.
If they're listening, I'm sure they're gonna be so excited. Okay. When did this turn into a? I know I wanted to be in the Olympics, but I didn't have a path to, like, this is the path.
I would say 13.
Okay.
I got my black belt when I was 13. I had already been competing. And that was really the first year that I competed as a junior in Junior Olympics.
Okay.
But then I also started competing nationally in the women's division, which is usually 18 years and older.
And you're 13.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is a competition is it a tournament? Is it kind of like form and then sparring, or is it all one or the other? What's a tournament process look like, or a competition?
Tournament, they break it out. There's people that even to today just compete doing forms.
Okay.
And then you can do sparring. So coming up, I would always do both, just because it's a good balance. And I was never really great at forms, I think, because of my height. So I just made myself do it just because I wasn't great at it, just to try to make myself better.
Yeah.
But I naturally gravitated to the sparring. So those are the divisions that I usually looked forward to the most.
Yeah.
Because I did like the contact, but yeah, really at 13 is when it really all started to change for me. Had some success that year. Actually placed at nationals that year, And so I was like, okay, this is cool. I can do this.
Yeah. When you're sparring somebody in a match, it's called a match. Yeah. And you said it's like a high-speed chess match. How far ahead are you thinking, like 1 or 2 moves ahead, like trying to work somebody to a position so that you can get that impact that you said that's what you really need to do is get the blow? Or how far in advance are you planning through that?
2-3 moves ahead.
Okay.
Sometimes 3 or 4, just depends. And a lot of times you're using motion to try. I'll use motion to try to draw something out of you, or I'll lead. My favorite thing that I would do, we called like a cut kick. So I would lead with like my first leg or my front leg, maybe try to get you off balance so I could follow, or to try to draw something out of you that I could counter and that, I felt good about. And I had a really good like front leg axe kick. So a lot of times I would do that to try to draw people in so then I could slip in a face attack.
Okay.
And again, I think the flexibility really helped with that.
Yeah.
So those were kind of my things.
And how do you develop those skills? Obviously, it's over time. Like, how many hours are you practicing a day or a week? Or, I mean, what's the training aspect look like leading up to this? You win the Junior Olympics, you're competing nationally against adults wanting to go into the Olympics. How much behind the scenes work does it take to get to be able to do those things?
Yeah, so in high school, I'm going right after school, or I'd come home for a little bit, probably get a snack, do some homework, because those things were instilled in us like very early on, and part of our success. So
good grades or push-ups.
Good grades.
Yeah, right. So, yeah,
I did better with that than my brother, but so focusing on grades, and then I would go to the gym and I would have class. So I'd really work out kind of on the bags ahead of time, go to regular class with everybody else, and then usually stay behind. I should have probably spent more time in the gym lifting, but those were probably the things that I didn't do as much as I should have.
Okay. So what would you say hours in a day doing that? You'd leave at an hour or 2 after school and get home.
3, 4, so then I'm up there by 5, and then usually there till 8, 9 at night.
Okay.
So
3-4 hours, 3-4 hours a day, 5 days a week?
5 days a week, and then Saturdays as well.
Okay.
So more like 6 days. And then Sunday, it just depends. Sometimes, we live along the Arkansas River, so we might go for a run or whatever. So
So I mean, it's 20, 25 hours a week of practice to put yourself in that position.
Yep.
And then what were the steps that you had to take to, like, all right, we're looking at Olympics, this might be something. What was that process like?
To qualify for team trials, when we did it, you had to place 1st through 4th at nationals. And then they would take 2 other people. They would bring 2 other people in to like what we called team trials, which is at the Olympic Training Center.
Okay.
Based on their prior record.
Okay. How do you get to the national point? So is it like a local and then a regional and then you go to national, or do you have to have a certain ranking and then you get invited to nationals?
It's usually like state and then nationals.
Okay.
So
you have to win the state that you're in too?
Not really. You just have to really place. And you can go. Right now, like they have regional qualifiers and things like that now, but you would go to state, but then you could pretty much go as long as you kind of placed within your state. So you go to state and then nationals.
How are the rankings done? Is it wins and losses type of a thing, or do you get points for things? What's the scoring method?
Wins and losses. So they're going to look at your record, how you placed. Right now, I think they do it more off of points, and you have to get so many points to qualify. But back then, it was more based on your record. So obviously, people who've been doing it a long time, they're going to have a much better resume than somebody new coming in.
Right.
So I always knew that I would have to go to nationals and do well to even qualify, just because my own, record stand alone wasn't good enough.
How long were some of those people that you were competing against at this stage had been doing Taekwondo compared to you?
A lot for a long time. I had there's a lady that I competed against at 92, and I know she was in 88. So a lot of the people that I looked up to.
She'd been in the Olympics 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were several that had been doing martial arts longer, or they came down from like kickboxing professional to do kind of Taekwondo.
Okay.
Because it was an Olympic sport moving in that direction.
Yeah.
So it was something people wanted to be a part of. So it did bring in, athletes that did kickboxing and other things. Yeah.
But when you're sparring, do you still have to kind of stay within the realms of the discipline though, right? I mean, is there any form component to it? I mean, I think you can't just come in and be a kickboxer and just start throwing punches and kicks. Yeah, there's things that you have to do or not. What is that?
No, literally when you're sparring, it's you can punch the body. You could not punch the face. But it was pretty much your knuckle contact on your body. So it's not like you were doing like a spinning back fist or turning, crazy.
Right.
And then just different roundhouse kicks. And then people would get more and more dynamic. You would see, a lot of the guys do, 360s and connect. So, as long as it was, that, it's, perfectly legal.
Yeah.
So...
Okay.
And like I said, we wore headgear and, chest protector and whatnot. But other than that, it's full contact. You're trying to knock someone out.
You're trying to hurt them.
You can. You are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's we had some battles at the time.
Yeah. So you get to the nationals, right? And it's kind of like, all right, so 92 is Olympics. It's in Barcelona. Is it that same year in January, February, you go to nationals and then Olympics are in July, or is it the year before? Or what's the timeline?
It was in May. So
so real close.
Real close.
Yeah.
So nationals are in May. That year, I finished second at nationals.
Do you know what your record was going into those nationals?
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure. But I have, up until that point, I had never won a nationals. So even the year I qualified for the Olympics, I had never won a nationals. I didn't earn one till like 2000 when I kind of had a comeback going.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, but it was always second or third or something like that. So again, I didn't have the strongest resume going in. But
you had to get in the top 4 at nationals, and then you get to go. And then now you still have to compete to be on the Olympic team, right?
Yep.
So
in that year, they didn't take every division. So my natural division was a middleweight. Well, they didn't take that division that year. So I either
wasn't going to be part of the Olympics.
Wow. I had to make a decision to go up to heavy, which I didn't want to do. I did that in 88, and then or drop down to welterweight.
Okay.
And so the majority of the middleweights kind of dropped down. There were a few lightweights that moved up. So you had a very stacked welterweight division that year with the lady that had won in 88 was in that grouping.
Wow.
So it was a very stacked competitive division.
Okay.
Year.
So 88 you tried and you didn't get in the top. Was it the top 4 that you didn't make at nationals? Was that the...
No, I made it to team trials and I ended up being an alternate, but I came up short at team trials.
Gotcha. And as an alternate, what does that encompass?
You stay home.
You watch it on TV.
Yes.
And if someone gets the flu, then you get on a plane
exactly.
right?
If someone gets hurt. So basically you're watching from the sidelines going, if only.
Yeah. So, yeah. Did that give you a little bit of fire to what are some of the things that I could have done better to try to make it in 4 years?
Yeah, I think in anything when you come up short, and it's really a goal that you have, what do I need to change? What needs to change, for me to make it? So is it that I need to put in more work? Is it the mental aspect? What are some of those changes that I need to make to achieve that goal?
Yeah. Because a lot of people... You get that far and then you don't make it and you think, all right, well, that was my chance. Woe is me. I'm a victim of the circumstance. I didn't do it. And you came back, right? And so, with a little bit more fire.
A little bit more fire, a little bit more determination.
Yeah.
And what I saw in some years is that I would get a little bit of success. So maybe I'd get second place or whatever, and maybe let my foot off the gas a little bit. Isn't that like life?
Right.
And then, but what you learn from real quick is you go back the next year, and if somebody blows you out first round, which has happened to me before, it lets you know that, look, there's people out there that are going for your spot.
Yeah.
So if you let up, you're going to fall short every time.
Yeah. So much of that is the time when you're not competing, right? When you're like, okay, well, I'm done. I'm going to take a break. And, in that moment, that's where you have to be in there. It's those dark days in the, working and, you're up before the sun and you're home, after it's dark. And that's how you do it.
Yeah. It's that saying that success is not what you do in the open or what is seen by others. It's what you do in the private, which is so true.
Yeah.
If you don't spend the time, like no one's going to do that for you. And so you have to mentally make yourself do all those things to be successful.
That's great. So you do that from 88 to 92. It's just crazy that it's like, you think, oh, you're going to be in the Olympics, for like 2 years and we're all going to train together. And, when the Winter Olympics are done, we're focusing on the summer, but it's like 2 months before.
2 months before.
And you find out that you are going to go to Colorado Springs, right?
Yep.
And compete. So what happens there?
So at that time, it was round robin. So round robin just meaning that for the 6 people that qualified, you're going to compete against everybody that day.
And how many people go?
To team trials, 6. And one's going.
Only one person?
One's going from each division.
Oh, okay.
So there's only one of us going. Everyone else is staying home.
And number 2 is the first alternate.
Yeah.
Just watching on TV.
Yeah.
Thinking what could have
person,
been. Yeah.
yes.
That's what you don't want to be. Was that more motivating in 92? Like, I cannot let that happen again?
You know what? I don't think that was a thought for me. It was just, just such a goal. I don't think I thought about that. Like, what if? For me, it was like, I don't think I gave myself an out or a choice. It was just going and doing the best I could. I knew that the competition was going to be tough. So really, I just took it one match at a time, knowing that every one was going to be important.
So it's round robin. How's it go?
So basically, round robin. So you have 5 matches that day. And then the 2 at the end of the day with the best record will compete again, and it's best 2 out of 3. But your match from earlier in the day counts. So I ended up winning all of my matches that day.
So your person you compete against the next day, you already have a 1 win out of the 3, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, except it's all same day. So you do the round robin, and then it's at the end of the day, it's down to 2. And so you know that one of the 2
you just got to beat this person one more time. They got to beat you twice.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, which is a good way to go into it. So we went into that last match. I was competing against a lady by the name of Arlene Lemus, who won in 88.
Okay.
She won the Olympics in 88, representing U.S.
Oh, wow.
Really
so
solid.
Like gold medal? Okay. So
she's good.
She knows she knows what she's doing here. You're going against a gold medalist. Yeah.
And I had been in camps with her before where, she had some good hits on me. So,
and she's got the drive to want to return.
Oh yeah,
and defend the gold medal.
100%.
Yeah.
So we go into that last match, and unbeknownst to really either one of us at the time, there was a scoreboard malfunction. So they would post the scores in between rounds. It's a little bit different now. The scores automatically get calculated or posted.
Yeah.
But there was a scoreboard malfunction between the second and third round. So, unbeknownst to us at the time. And so
she won the first. You won the first in the normal. Then the championship level, right?
Yeah.
The 2 out of 3. She wins that.
No, there's a scoreboard malfunction.
In the second match against her.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So there's a scoreboard malfunction, and she it ends up, it was supposed to show her behind me at the end of the second round, but it showed her ahead.
So it should be over, right? You're the winner.
Yeah. So I won the match, but because of the malfunction, she ends up protesting. So right at the end of the match, she sits down in the middle of the ring and protests the match, and we go from there. And
so then what happens? Then
she took it back home and took it to court. So she lived in Chicago at the time.
So they corrected. They said, "Oh, sorry, we messed that up. Danielle is the winner."
Yeah,
right.
Danielle's the winner.
Danielle's going to the Olympics, and then she says no. It's like sitting down. Is that the official form of protest? I guess, right? So she says nope.
Yep.
And they're not going to say, well, let's just do the rubber match right now. We're gonna wait and figure this out.
Yeah. So her coach went with her and protested, and it continued on. So they ended up filing a lawsuit in Chicago.
Is that where they're from? That's why? That's where they're from? Is that why Chicago? Okay.
Yeah. So for her, that was kind of her home turf.
Yeah.
So she files, basically an appeal to the outcome of the match. And so, I'm already there with my team training. And
you stay in Colorado Springs probably because it's like, hey, we're leaving next week.
Yeah. Pretty quick. We were there for a month, but yeah, you're preparing.
Yeah.
So you're with the team preparing. And she filed that lawsuit. And so the judge ended up ordering a rematch.
Wait, okay, so how did you have to go and testify or what? I mean, what? Isn't it clear? Did they not say, here's the scoreboard? And they okay, so how did that go?
So they flew me from Colorado Springs to Chicago, at which point I was deposed by a judge.
Wow.
And they brought up a camp that we had been at and where, she got a good solid hit on me and gave me a concussion, which had been a few years before.
What does that have to do with?
Doesn't.
Okay. So I'm feeling what you're feeling at this time then. Yeah. Okay.
So there's a little frustration.
Sure.
And the judge ordered a rematch. So
right there in the courtroom,
pretty much.
The rematch isn't going to happen in the courtroom.
No. But
it'd be dramatic. It'd be a good movie scene, I think, right?
Yes. But within the same week, they flew us back to Colorado Springs.
Oh,
and so I think it was either a Friday night or a Saturday because it was the night before the Olympic team submissions had to be in. We ended up doing a rematch.
So what are you feeling at this moment? Because you're training to go. There's other people in different classes that are going, right? And are you training with the alternate at that point? Where she would be the alternate, right? If she was...
She would, but no. So literally it's just the 4 men and the 4 women that qualified.
Okay.
So there's only 8 of us.
Okay.
And our coaches.
And so while this whole thing is going down, is this in the back of your mind, you could... I don't know if this is for sure, or we're waiting for court. And I mean, what are you thinking at this time?
A lot of emotions come in your brain because you're well, one, you think, well, this isn't quite fair, but
sure.
And it's not something that you want to do. It's not something that you. So for me, I had those emotions I really don't want to do this again, but you have to. So this is for me. It was this last moment. So okay, well. You've got to do it one more time. So you've done it all these other times up until now. So it's just one more time. So it's just putting yourself in that right mindset. Okay, I got to mentally prepare, put myself in the right mind steps to step back in the ring and just do it one more time.
You got to do that quick too, though. Because you got 24 hours flying back to altitude and it's go time. So to let that go that fast is an important aspect here. It
is. I will say, looking back on the videos, you can hear this new team that's been put together. And so I would say, and just having and hearing them cheer, and they know she got the gold medal in '88. Yeah. She's probably got good odds of being successful. Yeah. But them really rallying, that probably to me in that moment meant a ton.
Rallying behind you. Yeah. Because you're on the team in their eyes and you've been training with them and now this isn't okay.
Yeah.
So you win. obviously. Was it a dramatic fashion, or did you just take care of business and there was no question, or was it close?
This one was decisive.
Yeah.
And I think in that minute, I was like, this just needs to be, you don't want to leave it in the hands of anybody. And I kind of feel that about sports today. Like, you'll see these matches and sometimes people just don't, or what the Mavs played last night. Did they play two halves? It's one of those things.
Yeah.
You got to play both halves. You got to play both halves.
Yeah. Well, now, but here's the cool thing about this is maybe they've won the championship. Maybe they didn't. We don't know because this is airing after,
Exactly.
right? So we might find out. But I would say game 2, there was some things maybe left out there.
So, yeah. So I think those are things you look back on, and you've got to be consistent. You've got to play. You have to play at your maximum capacity.
Yeah. Throughout
the entire, you can't judge how you're going to approach something based on a score.
Yeah.
You have to go and fight your fight. Don't let anyone, alter that course for you. Did
it feel almost like vindicating of this was decisive? There's no question.
Mm-hmm.
I should be on this team. Was that the fire behind it? And did you feel that way afterwards?
I would say yes. But for me, it was almost like, I feel like that was like the moment where, it all culminated in one special moment where that all comes together. But for me, it was almost like my peak.
Yeah.
So it was almost like too soon.
Okay.
So when you like play into like everything else.
Yeah, right. So, and it almost had to be. I mean, you had to go win this championship now, a second time.
Yep.
It can be kind of mentally taxing in a way, right?
Yes.
So you make the team, and then like 12 hours later, you're on a plane to Barcelona, basically, just about.
Close.
Yeah. And so this is 92. So this is the dream team, right? Michael Jordan, that whole fanfare. What was that like being on Team USA with all of that came with it?
That was insanity. It was amazing, though. And I think that's where everything became surreal for me, because you grow up watching it on TV and you see like that year for track, it was like Carl Lewis. It was probably his last Olympics that year. So I can remember, because you go through like a staging and you get to see pretty much everybody before you even walk into the arena. And just being able to see all these people, and even like it was the dream team that year.
Yeah. Did you get any interaction with them?
The only person I could get close enough to was Christian Leitner. So,
okay.
And he was the only
he was the amateur. He was the
amateur on the team. So otherwise, it was just me like sticking my camera up in hopes of getting a good picture. And I do. Like, I have a picture of like Charles Barkley, but it's literally with me just holding up my camera.
Wow.
And we didn't have iPhones, so
yeah, right, yeah. In that moment, like, was it kind of surreal? Like when you you win the second match, right? You're on Team USA, you're going to the Olympics. You spoke this into existence when you were very young.
Mm-hmm.
Was it kind of surreal at that moment? What did your family say about that? What was that process like there?
So that year, my dad was at team trial, so neither of my parents went to the Olympics. And then when I made the team, my mom was at home, so she was sick.
Okay.
And so, so that aspect, was probably incomplete for me because my parents weren't there. I think everybody, wants your parents to be there in that moment. So that was probably, just not having, her there. When I made the team, it's a piece that's missing from the puzzle. So, yeah.
Well, it is in a way, but did it give you kind of an extra, okay, well, let me make sure that I do well there. They're, I'm sure they're watching, or, what have you, or was it motivating, or what was
either
that?
way. I mean, look, you want to go and do a really, fantastic job because you're representing your country.
Yeah.
So it's like one of the most I was in the military, so I didn't represent my country this way, but this was a way that I could go and represent, my country and Team USA.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a proud American moment to where I really wanted to do a good job. And I also wanted to prove to myself that, yes, the road here was hard. You beat some good people to be here, but you also want to go then and show that, hey, the right person's going and representing Team USA.
Of course, yeah. Well, and there was that question, right, that you had to answer to begin with. So, what's it like when you're there? I'm sure everyone wonders. Do you just fly on commercial airline and then they're like holding up a sign and you go, or is it all traveling with the team and then you stay in the Olympic Village, or what's the actual being an Olympian experience like?
Yeah, so you're traveling with the team. Okay. So, but it's
with everybody.
You have on our team we had some Greco-Roman wrestlers, so not everybody, but you have chunks of team flying together. So they're chartered jets, or the big ones. Yeah, and. Yeah, it's interesting. You're on there with a bunch of athletes and, you have a pillow fight on the flight over. So you're doing...
a little sparring in the aisle.
Mm-hmm. So I remember we had a pillow fight on the way over, just everybody. And what was really cool is that you're in the Olympic Village. You got to see, like, for us that year, was like the gymnasts were, and some of the boxers were really close in vicinity to where we were staying.
Okay.
And...
did they group you by, like, event, or is it by country, or kind of just random?
It's kind of random.
Okay.
So you'll have different ones, but we were all, like, our whole team, male and female, we were all in the same apartment.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, but we were stacked 2 to a room, females in a room, guys in a room.
Yeah.
But, we're all, in the same,
you're all
in
there.
the same space.
Yeah.
So
how soon from when you get there and you do the opening ceremonies, and like when are your events?
Ours is closer to the end. Okay. So we were good there 3 weeks before our event. So we're still...
You're full training mode then.
Yeah, we're still doing 2-a-days. We spent a day at, like, our actual venue that they had set apart for Taekwondo, but we didn't like it because you have other countries that would come and kind of watch your training and stuff. Yeah. So we actually...
You don't want them to see that type of stuff.
No.
Yeah.
So we found a little dojo, little place to train in the heart of Barcelona. So we would take a bus,
like where people just go and do Taekwondo. So there's 8-year-olds learning, and then here comes the U.S. Olympic team, just like, oh, we're gonna go here in the back corner.
Basically, but they had it kind of cleared out for us.
Okay.
So we would go during the day, and the judo team went before us, so they would be coming off the floor. We would be coming on.
Yeah.
And then just in this little bitty place, we would do our workouts, and then you kind of get done with your first one around siesta time. So but we all had a thing where we would kind of go get a coffee or whatever and just kind of relax before our afternoon session before going back.
Did you see the intensity ramping up though in those 3 weeks? Like everyone's starting to put on, like, we know what this is.
Yeah. And you have different people at different stages. We had a young guy on the team, and he was really trying to cut weight. So he really isolated himself from the team because he had to lose a lot of weight still.
Because he may still not be able to compete if he doesn't get the weight right. You got to weigh in.
Mm-hmm. So he's kind of off isolating himself. So you have different people in different places with where their training's at. So I'm with the team. I'm watching my weight because I'm naturally heavier.
Yeah.
And if I eat anything, I'm going to go over. So, I'm running, my lightest weight at that time.
Yeah.
So
you get to the event. Mm-hmm. Take us through that moment.
The event's amazing. There's a lot of people there in Spain because Taekwondo in Spain is, especially for women at the time, it was like one of the dominant countries.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so even when you watch TVs, there's commercials. Like, you don't really see a lot of that here in America, but you would there. So you're
on the home court then for Spain for the top athletes.
So they have us back in a holding area. You have to wear all designated equipment because it's all sponsored. So you've got to wear all the sponsored stuff, which to me, that was probably the most annoying piece because it's not my gear.
Yeah.
And all of us had malfunctions with it where it's like coming off. So it was just one of those things. But, they parade you out, you walk out. So it's very, they're showcasing the athletes.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. And then, you're one of probably 4 or 5 rings competing, and all eyes are on you. And I just remember hearing the cheers, and in the back of my mind, I kind of knew that they were for her, but because I fought Spain too.
Okay,
but,
you're the away team, right?
To me, I just pivoted and said, they're cheering for me. So we're just going to go with that. So,
okay.
So mentally, that's how I played it. And then I could, hear my teammates and things like that. So, but just an amazing moment because I had never competed in a venue with like that many people kind of coming together to watch our sport.
How many people are in there watching this, would you say?
Several thousand.
Wow.
Probably 15.
15,000?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I want to say there's a lot because it's a smaller venue, but it still holds a lot of people.
And it's like you said, it's Spain's kind of primary thing at this point, so they're all getting behind it. So, so you finish third. Mm-hmm. You get a bronze medal.
Yes.
Right. So, how did it feel knowing that you're going to be on the podium at the Olympics, to stand on the podium to receive the medal? What was that? What were the feelings that you had at that moment?
Amazing feeling because you've put years of your life into this goal that you've been striving for. Mm-hmm. And now you're like, one of 4 people
in the world
on the podium
in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a special moment. In that moment, I could, you could see the flags going up.
Yeah.
And you see the flag of your country going up. It's a pretty special moment. Yes, would I have liked it to be first? Yes.
Sure.
All of us would.
Right.
But it's really and you want to hear your anthem, but it's a moment that's hard to describe because it's all of that work, coming together for that one moment.
Yeah.
So really special moment. Outside of the opening ceremonies, because that's amazing too and hard to describe, just the energy in that arena.
What was life coming back home to the U.S. as a bronze medalist?
It was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
When I got back home, we had they had arranged kind of they worked with the mayor, and so we had a big party when I got back home.
Okay.
And the mayor actually declared, and you don't ask me the day because I can't remember, but I actually have a day.
Really?
Yeah, I have. It's my maiden name, but Danielle Alexander Day.
In what town?
Tulsa.
In Tulsa. Mm-hmm. Well, we need to find out what that is.
I'll find out. I have it at home. It's in August, I'm pretty sure. So,
that will be a thing, and I'll make sure Kevin has a big throw out for you there in the agency on your day. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's my day.
It's your day. So, a great reception, right? And then just jump right into life insurance after that? Or how do we get from point A to point B here?
No. So, I finished college. The Olympics was between my sophomore and junior year in college. So I went to University of Tulsa. Okay. So I went back to life there. I stopped doing Taekwondo at the time, decided, hey, I want to pivot.
Did anybody, I'm just wondering, like, so you just, where's Danielle been? Oh, well, she's, got a couple weeks off. You just walk in and now you're I guess it's in the summer, but did any of the students be like, oh, there's bronze medalist or?
I'm not sure if they did. They did do a whole layout in the yearbook. Okay. So I've got a whole kind of yearbook spread.
That's pretty cool.
So it is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
So they did some cool things there. But then, I was just plugging back into the kind of the normalcy of, college life. Yeah. I lived at home during college, so just kind of finishing out those years. And then I ended up going into really the default servicing space for actually my career up until about 8 months ago.
Okay. And mortgages.
Mortgage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I started out with a little company called The Money Store, entry level, and I just started working my way up. So kind of like the Taekwondo.
Yeah.
You put yourself into it and you're moving your way up.
Are those lessons that you learned along the way and the work ethic, that's coming in play in your professional career?
Yeah, 100%. Because I'm never complacent, and I get bored with just repetitive things. So I'm always trying to push the limit. People really have to push my limit because I will get bored with just like repetitive actions.
Yeah.
A lot of times. So yeah, just going back to that, and then I quickly promote up. And then I remember, I was trying to move from like a supervisor position to like an assistant vice president position, and that was a whole thing. And I wasn't really I don't really like to really brag about myself or like my past, but I was fortunate enough that I had a gentleman who saw my resume, and of course I had my Olympic stuff on there, and he was really good about looking at within an organization and finding talent. So, he saw my resume, saw the Olympics on there, and I was, unbeknownst to me, I threw my, name in the hat for this position, but, if he probably hadn't interceded, I probably wouldn't have got that promotion. So I really feel like he, discovered, hey, there's some talent here
something
that
going on.
You guys haven't looked a little deeper in.
Right.
Let's give this person a shot. So they ended up promoting me to assistant vice president. And then the next place that I kind of went to in my career, I made that jump from an assistant vice president to vice president.
Okay.
And ultimately, I think the most senior position I landed was senior vice president at a company called Carrington Mortgage. And I ran one of their property preservation companies for them.
Okay. So your career path is doing good in that industry. So when did the desire or need or both to switch to lead you to here?
I got the last job I was at, I was recruited by a lady, a CEO of a prop tech company. She was doing a startup.
Okay.
And she recruited a couple of us to kind of come over. And we had all worked together before. So I thought, well, you know what? I think I'll try this. I'm going to get some shares in the company. Yeah. You get the company going. You get a pretty good payout. Yeah. You're good. And it was a grind, which is fine. I'm used to grinds. Felt like I did a good job for them. But then 8 months in, and I felt it coming in my entire being. I knew it was going to happen. That I was going to get laid off. And so, you get that. I've always been on the opposite end of it. So it's weird being on the receiving end. It's like the worst feeling in the whole world.
It's kind of out of control here too, because you've done well. You're senior vice president. You're going to take this leap into the. So you left a good position to
I left.
Get this.
I wasn't even looking.
Yeah.
Which, you look back on it and you kind of kick yourself, but I wanted to give it a try. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. But I really feel like I ended up getting laid off. But I've also been kind of in this, my faith is very strong, with my belief in God, and He's really orchestrated everything about my life. And so, but for me, I think I was stuck, and I don't feel like until now I've fully surrendered everything to Him. And so, and the last part was my finances, because we can get so complacent with our finances and provision until it's not guaranteed. Yeah. So, I get laid off, and then I'm like, I get a little severance package, and it'll last a little bit. And I've been good about saving and putting money away. So, I've got some runway. And
so did you immediately put your resume online, or you said, I just need to take a minute because you're kind of out of control at this point?
My minute was like a week. And then, I was already reaching out. I reached out to some other CEOs that I know in the industry, and they connected with me, some, executive recruiters. But none of it was working. And so I remember just praying Lord just put the right people in my path, which he has, from support system that I needed, that I probably didn't realize that I needed. It's a really strong group of women. And, just put that in my life, and please open up the opportunities you want to open. I remember that day I was praying about that, and I had put my resume out like on Indeed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I get
not even thinking anything of it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just, okay, I'll do that.
And it was literally that morning, and I get a text from Liberty National.
Wow.
And I'm like, what's this? Because it's not how I normally go about looking for a job or a career, actually.
Yeah. Did you think it was a mortgage company at first? Kind of has a mortgagey name, I guess.
Kind of, except that I had one from like MetLife, and so I'm like, okay, I think this is all the same
The
vein.
insurance companies are after me.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is all on the same vein.
Yeah.
And so, I answer the text. It's like, hey, do you have availability, today at blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, already? Like for an interview, I think it even said. So I get on there, and it's like the Kevin Petersen webinar. And I'm like, this is not an interview. But I learned a lot about the business. And then it just tells you, hey, stay on, and you can talk to somebody, blah, blah, blah. And so I ended up talking to John Osborne at the agency, and he's a really good story.
He does. Yeah.
And it was something that I could relate to, I think, in that moment, because I think he said something to me that just really resonated, and it was, I got into this for all the wrong reasons. And looking back, I probably did too, because you think, okay, well, I've got to provide. But it's so much more than that. It's a community of people. And the way I look at it, when anyone gets into my car, I have them captive for 2 weeks.
That you're training. Anybody that gets in your car when you're training them. Yeah.
It might be for the purpose of insurance, but I also know that the fallout rate's pretty high. So I might have 2 people in my car, but it's for a completely different reason. So, and it could be a ministry opportunity. I've had a lady in my car from Turkey who I don't think had ever heard the gospel before.
Wow.
So just inviting her to church and giving her that opportunity, that's huge for me.
It's kind of connecting you to a greater purpose through the opportunity.
Yep. And I think in the corporate world, I never felt free to do that.
Sure.
But here, you're building rapport with business owners who are like-minded, and you kind of have that reign to do that. And so for me, I finally feel like I'm walking in more of a God-given purpose for my life, despite all the success in the Olympics in the past. And so for me, I've kind of drawn a line in the sand, like I'm not giving myself an out.
It's good.
Because I feel like if you give yourself an out, this is something where it's easy to talk yourself out of it because everybody says no to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the one thing that we talk about on the show from everybody that's been on it. They all have that moment where they're like, all right, I'm done, I quit. And it's a matter of not accepting that.
Yeah.
Destroying plan B, burning the ships, right, as they say. And
burn the ships.
Yeah, you can't give yourself that out. So, well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's so exciting to hear it and everything that you had went through to become, the Olympian, and then your path that got you here, right? I think there's a lot to it. A successful career. You're a senior vice president, and then a layoff and something out of your control would lead you to finding kind of where you need to be here at an insurance company when you said all along you didn't want to do insurance. Yeah. Because your dad did it, and here you are.
Yep. I know he's amazed now. So
sure.
He's like, well, full circle.
Full circle. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And sharing the story. All right. We have one last thing.
Okay.
As we always do. This is slowly becoming everyone's favorite part of the show. It's the bobblehead. So, as you see, we have our prior guests from seasons 1, 2, and 3, and a little 4 here, hanging out behind, listening, and you will now be there, enshrined in the Level Up Lifestyle bobblehead. So you have a day. Do you have a bobblehead?
I don't.
You don't. Now you do, right?
First.
Yeah.
So
You're the first person I've given a bobblehead that had a day for them in their hometown in the big city too.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have the bobbleheads as part of the day this coming August. That might be fun. We'll do
it. You know what? I'll put the bobblehead by the certificate that has my day, and I'll send it to you.
There we go.
So you have it. And by the medal. So
yeah, that's some good social traction there, I think. Yeah, that'd be good.
I think it's worthy of the shelf.
Absolutely. Okay, so here it is. This is the official Danielle Alexander Level Up Lifestyle bobblehead.
Oh, man.
There you go.
That's why it's got a medal and everything.
Yeah. Representing the medal and the whole thing. So exciting. Congratulations.
That's awesome. Thank you.
If you would, you think about what the bobblehead represents is kind of who you've become through your journey. If you were to go back to a crossroads moment in your life, kind of knowing what you know now and what this encapsulates, I don't know, maybe it's that time, I got to fly to Chicago now and see if I can remake the team or right before that match or walking into the Olympic Games or, losing kind of your career at that point when you felt out of control. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself then?
I would say you are beautifully and wonderfully made. You're enough. You're always enough and forever enough. And that your steps have been ordered. And don't be afraid to walk in that calling.
Yeah.
But don't take the pen.
Yeah.
God's the author and the finisher, and don't take the pen because he's trying to work out something beautiful through your life.
That's great.
I would say that.
Very well said.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has inspired you on your path to success. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next story. See you soon on the Level Up Lifestyle Podcast.